Hello there, and welcome to Second Take. It's about a week until Christmas. So, what you're mostly hearing from your workmates is the words end of year fatigue. The people are tired, and at some point, I considered being tired of myself. Then I was reminded that if Robert Mugabe could oppress Zimbabweans for over 2 decades, who am I to ask for a break? So it's time for us to take a second take of our second takes as we take you through more of the stories of the year.
Today we are going to learn how to bake.
Welcome everyone.
Things may not always go as planned, but our technology doesn't fail. Join Paratus today. Paratus, always prepared.
All right, it is time for us to get into more of our stories of the year. On the 3rd of September, it was time to address the senior members of society and government after USA's Mitch McConnell had yet another grandpa moment. In our third story, we zone in on the otherwise zoned out Mitch McConnell. The top US Senate Republican froze up for more than 30 seconds during a public appearance before he was escorted away. And it was an incident that happened for the second time in a little more than a month, which is certainly worrying. McConnell, 81, was responding to questions from reporters after an event when he froze up, staring into space and not responding to reporters and others nearby. The incident raised fresh questions among Republican and Democratic members of Congress about some of their aging colleagues. Now, after being approached by a second person, McConnell resumed speaking, but needed reporters' questions repeated to him, and he only answered 2 more questions. Now, the longest-serving Senate party leader in history, McConnell's voice was shaky and quiet. Now, everything I just said makes sense if one is not at work. If an 81-year-old freezes, has a shaky voice and goes quiet, that usually is called granddad after watching news about gender identity. But if that man has to make important decisions for your country, then we have to ask why it seems like politicians all over the world are exempt from a retirement age. Why does one choose to age in front of us instead of allowing young ones the same opportunity they had to lead? Why does one keep running for office when they can't, well, run? On the 17th of September, we found out that the current Zambian and Zimbabwean ruling administrations have bad blood that goes beyond the Victoria Falls debates. So, last week, we spoke about Zambia's President Hakainde Hichilema catching a whiff of coup soup, and at first glance, it was difficult to discern from whence the presidential paranoia stemmed from, given how high Zambia scores on the democracy index. Turns out he just had to look across the Victoria Falls because certain comments were made by Zimbabwe's ZANU-PF functionaries in Harare following Hichilema's emissary, Nevers Mumba, leading a SADC observers mission that discredited Zimbabwe's recent elections. ZANU-PF's Rutendo Matanyire tweeted that the Zambian president and his SADC observation team leader had a conflict of interest, alleging that Nelson Chamisa is Hichilema's friend and HH paid for Chamisa's election campaign. Now, this was not the comment that went as far as sparking protests in Zambia. It was when he tweeted that Levi Mwanawasa, a former president of Zambia that had to mediate between Robert Mugabe and Morgan Tsvangirai, had died because he was allegedly orchestrating an invasion of Zimbabwe. And Hichilema too will see that you don't mess with Africa. ZANU-PF Treasurer Patrick Chinamasa echoed the same remarks, to which Zambians immediately demanded answers. Some protesters hoisted a large banner written, "We want to know why you want to kill President Hakainde Hichilema, as alleged in your statement." Others held placards inscribed, "He's cleaning your mess, but you keep ranting. Shame on you." The aforementioned President Mwanawasa called Mugabe's Zimbabwe a sinking Titanic after repeated allegations of rigged elections logged against ZANU-PF. He died in 2008. Now, ironically, President Mnangagwa grew up and went to school in Zambia. Part of his family still lives in Mumbwa in Zambia. He was a youth leader of Zambia's Independence Party, UNIP. But much like an argument over Victoria Falls, there seems to be no love lost between ZANU-PF and the current Zambian leadership. Yet on any level, such statements and what they allude to is unacceptable. But ZANU-PF can often be like that friend that you bring to your family function that gets too inebriated to avoid being senselessly disruptive. As much as you can't stop them from getting drunk, you'd be happy if they at least managed to keep quiet. But who am I to ask that a party doesn't make inflationary statements when the economy they are currently overseeing hovers around a 170% inflation rate? Inflation is their thing. However, President Mnangagwa has a solution for the nation that, much like charity, begins at home. We had stories like that throughout the year, and there's more to come. We're going to take a short break.
In 1994, a group of Namibians saw a need for a grassroots Namibian medical aid fund. The Prosperity Medical Aid Fund was born right here, among the hardworking fishermen and ship workers of Walvish Bay. In 2001, in order to establish a fund focused on its members that put their health first, the fund formed its own identity away from its administrators, Prosperity Health. It was named Renaissance Health as a symbol for the renewal of medical funding in Namibia, a transformation in health. Renaissance members voted for their first board of trustees who would carry the fund forward for all Namibians. By 2010, Renaissance had members across the entire Namibia. A fund founded by Namibians for Namibians to ensure access to quality healthcare. In 2020, RMA was put to the test with COVID-19, supplying life-saving oxygen machines door-to-door to members when our Namibian hospitals were full, saving many of its members' lives. RMA is not just a medical aid fund, it's a partner in health for its members, whether through our chronic compliance programs or yearly wellness checkups. RMA was started by you. It belongs to you. A proudly Namibian first medical aid fund providing the best in care for all Namibians. Renaissance Health Medical Aid Fund, serving Namibia since 1994. RMA. Your health comes first.
On 15 October, an Angolan social media influencer was sentenced to 2 years in prison for insulting President João Lourenço, and we had to give that story a second take. A social media influencer in Angola has had her prison sentence increased to 2 years for insulting President João Lourenço on TikTok. Ana da Silva Miguel, popularly known as Neth Nahara, was initially sentenced by a court to just 6 months in August. However, an appeals court ruled that the sentence was too lenient and raised it to 2 years, saying that Ms. Miguel had used offensive words against the president, and the fact that she had the ability to influence public opinion made her conduct more objectionable. Now, Ms. Miguel accused the president on her TikTok account of anarchy and disorganization, local media reported. She also blamed the president for the lack of schools, housing, and employment in the oil-rich Southern African state. President Lourenço was re-elected for a second term in August last year in a closely fought election that extended the ruling MPLA party's decades-long dominance. It's been in power since independence in 1975 and is accused of leading a repressive regime. The concern for presidential feelings, according to me, seems a little rife. And nothing quite says repression than jailing someone for making a TikTok based on their own perspective. A president being blamed for the lack of schools, housing, and employment is as common as a president being responsible for building schools, housing, and employment. And since when was it an insult to be called disorganized? I mean, at this stage, we can expect long-term ruling parties to enact laws against TikTok filters and challenges. And let's say someone calls you an anarchist and disorganized. Should you not be able to simply show the nation that they aren't any of the above mentioned? I mean, if someone says that you keep a messy room, shouldn't your first response simply to be opening the door? In my experience, people complain about what they see. And what I see is African presidents with far-reaching power having the emotional fortitude of school-going teenagers.
Stay with Second Take. We'll be back just now.
It's the Premier League, all on DSTV. All the goals, clashes, and moments. All of Rashford, Salah, and Saka.
Their start is getting better and better and better.
All in HD. Available on all these bouquets to choose from. To watch on all these devices. Get DSTV with an HD decoder, free installation, plus 1 month compact for 1,549 Namibian dollars. It's the Premier League, all on DSTV.
Looking at the 22nd of October, we zoned in on the foiled escape attempt by former president of Niger, Mohamed Bazoum. The military government in Niger says it has foiled an escape attempt by the deposed former president Mohamed Bazoum, who has been under house arrest since members of his presidential guard staged a military coup late in July. Now, the former president attempted to flee in the night with his family, cooks, security. A military spokesperson said, now nothing says priorities like fleeing with your cooks. The ousted president clearly had issues letting go of some of the luxuries of the past. Having 2 cooks in your escape plan says that you couldn't read a room if a tattooed elephant was at its center. And I'm not one to justify military coups, but the reasons behind longtime leaders getting ousted are sometimes easier to make sense of than the dynamic of Jada and Will Smith's relationship. For example, if Bazoum was of the opinion that a person fleeing the country in the most desperate of circumstances needed at least 2 cooks, then perhaps he could have put more effort into ensuring that his country didn't have over 4 million people starving while he was still in power. A Kenyan governor was impeached twice in the short space of 10 months, and on the 29th of October, we delved into the reasons behind her back-to-back sacking. In Kenya, Meru Governor Kawira Mwangaza has been impeached for a second time in 10 months. Now, Governor Mwangaza was impeached first by the County Assembly in December last year, barely 3 months into office. Nothing says that you are not meant for a job than people trying to get rid of you twice in 10 months and just 90 days into working. That means that the discord was instant, like your auntie standing up to sing after having one too many drinks at your wedding. And much like your auntie, the governor was allegedly drunk on power because she is accused of misappropriation and misuse of county resources, nepotism and unethical acts, vilification and demeaning of other leaders, illegal appointments, and usurpation of statutory power. Other allegations include contempt of court and, hear this, illegal naming of a public road after her husband. Aside from having a moral CV that reads like Grace Mugabe's yearly goal list, I have to say, I'm not mad at naming the street after your husband. I mean, he must have said that he was tired of always receiving socks for his birthday, and being the thoughtful wife she is, she decided to make her man feel special by naming an entire road after him. This is one of those things that people probably are mad at because they wish they did it first, which is a problem I do not have, because I am more than happy to show up with a second take.
This is still Second Take with Ashwyn Mberi. The laughs will keep on coming as long as you stick around. See you after the break.
From the day you were born and welcomed until your pensioner years on this earth, your life is filled with changes and phases. What mattered the most at age 10 may be an unknown memory at 25. The heartbreak at 16 may be replaced with wedding bells at 27. The degree you've always wanted or starting your career business may come true at age 30. And the dream to own your own home may come to realization at age 50. Whatever stage you find yourself in, whatever matters right now, Standard Bank has what you need to bank like you. Choose your own path. Choose endless possibilities. Standard Bank, it can be.
On the 5th of November, we gave a second take to Nigerian President Bola Tinubu trying to sneak the purchase of a $6 million yacht into the national budget. President Bola Tinubu took office in May with a promise to cut waste and ease people's financial hardship, which is what anyone expects from an incoming president, particularly when you are dealing with a very volatile economy that happens to be the largest in Africa. So one can imagine how surprised I was when I read that he tabled a supplementary budget in the National Assembly for approval with the planned purchase of a yacht for $6 million. Yes, a yacht. What is it with African leaders and wanting to lead a double life? On one end, you want to be the respected leader that prioritizes his people's needs. On the other end, you want to be WizKid shooting a music video. Make up your minds, because it feels like you make up policies to get votes. Thank goodness Nigeria's lower chamber of parliament has rejected the plan. But much like rejecting a teenage boy's house party request, no matter how much you trust him staying home alone after the fact, you should probably keep an eye on him. In the same episode, my global take was on the UK's relationship with apologies. So King Charles III visited Kenya, and it has been awkward to say the least. King Charles's first visit to a Commonwealth country since his accession has been marked by unprecedented calls for the UK to offer an unequivocal apology and reparations for colonial atrocities. You know, the fact that countries have to demand apologies decades after they've been wronged makes it seem like the UK hopes everyone just gets over what happened, like the ex that hurt you, ghosted you, and then showed up months later, like the future Hendrix memes. Naturally, offering deepest sorrows and regret didn't move the needle for a lot of Kenyans who hoped that he would clearly apologize and ask for forgiveness, much like the German president did as he was apologizing unequivocally about the country's colonization of Tanzania during the same week. Now, I don't know how much moral high ground Germany can actually hold over the UK, but the UK can certainly learn about apologies that are not like post-Premier League game VAR referee admissions, because much like VAR, we all saw what happened, and simply apologizing won't change the scoreline. You're still with Second Take, where we are never satisfied with the first glance. See you soon. Much like traveling with a bream without a cooler box, fish rot is inevitable. Have a look at this story from the 12th of November. In a stunning display of commitment to environmental innovation, Iceland's Energy Fund has bestowed a generous subsidy of 100 million Icelandic krona, roughly 13 million Namibian dollars, upon none other than the illustrious fishy fellows at Samherji. Because nothing says saving the planet like rewarding a company with ties to the fish rot corruption saga in Namibia. This bold move comes as Samherji, accused of engaging in a bribery bonanza since 2012 to get cozy with Namibia's fishy business, is apparently seeking redemption through the magic of carbon-free ammonia. Yes, you heard it right. Nothing washes away allegations of corruption like a good old switch from fossil fuels to fish-friendly ammonia. Honestly, this raises the bar for governments worldwide on how to tackle corruption. Just throw some green initiatives at it and voila, problem solved. I mean, who needs ethical fishing practices when you can have ammonia-powered absolution? It's like a facial cleanse for your conscience, sponsored by the Icelandic government. Because when it comes to dealing with corruption, why not go for the tried and true method of trusting the untrustworthy? Better the Saki Shangala, you know, I always say. In the same episode, we covered the frustration of the richest man in the world owing you money. Sacked Twitter employees in Africa are gearing up for a legal showdown with the platform formerly known as Twitter, now mysteriously dubbed X, claiming they were promised a golden parachute and all they got was a one-way ticket to frustration. The dismissed staff, who were part of Elon Musk's grand employee firing spree, are now threatening to sue the company for not delivering on the redundancy money they were apparently owed. Musk, who is the world's richest man and apparently a fan of swift personnel decisions, dismissed over 6,000 employees last year, citing daily losses that could apparently make a billionaire shed a tear. Sniff, sniff. Now, the African cohort, a modest group of fewer than 20, found themselves at the mercy of X after having just settled into their new office in Accra, Ghana. And now, the once-in-a-lifetime experience of being fired by the world's richest man has left the ex-employees lamenting the loss of income. You know, there's nothing quite like the delightful irony of realizing that someone with a casual, $335 billion in their pocket is ghosting you and casually moonwalking away from their financial commitments to you. Elon, I know you're South African, but I will need you to choose better heroes than Jacob Zuma. Pay back the money. Don't you dare move. I'm serious. Sit still. Yeah? Okay, see you after the break. That's been our second take episode, our penultimate episode. We still have one to go. It's going to be on the eve of Christmas, and I promise to ruin your family dinner. From me, Ashwyn Mberi. That's been the second take.